Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
You couldn't drive around without seeing that old coupe modified somewhere out someone else's gas station. And you just knew when you're 4, 5, 6 years old, that's the world to you. You know, like 3 months after it happened, you see parts of the Darlington race, and in between figure skating and Chinese ping pong, and when you're a 6-year-old kid, it's like, son of a bee, man, I don't give two craps about ping pong, but and just seeing that, it was like, holy crap, man, that's Richie stuff. It's like, I'm 16 years old and it was still like unfathomable, you know.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
All right. So, first of all, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Dluzniewski?
Americanized, we've always said Dluzniewski.
Dluzniewski.
Now, if you wanted to be ethnic about it, you would be Dluzniewski. That's the Polish pronunciation.
Let's go with Dluzniewski.
Yeah, that's where the Duze
now say the Polish again.
Dluzniewski. And actually in Polish, a male I think is Dluzniewski, but when you address the woman, she would be Dluzniewska. Panie was the female. Panie Dluz, like my Bachi, my grandmother. Panie Dluzniewska.
Now, is that something that you spoke in the home? Are your parents?
No.
Are you first generation?
No, my parents didn't speak Polish, but my father's mother and father did speak a fair amount. So
Okay.
it would have been my great grandparents that I believe were the immigrants.
So how did you pick it up from them?
Well, I don't speak Polish, but you're
Okay.
you're 5 years old, learning to spell Dluzniewski. You learn that. A lot of things ain't so hard after that, you know.
All right. So you were talking before we started recording, and your dad was a racer.
Yeah, he local Riverside Park Speedway, Agawam, Massachusetts. So he's like me, had like a very, maybe a 4-week driving career, and then ended up with people driving his stuff, working on other people's stuff. Had the gas station, and back in the day, I mean, that's where the race cars were at, the gas station, and you couldn't drive around without seeing that old coupe modified somewhere out someone else's gas station, and you just knew when you're 4, 5, 6 years old, that's the world to you. You knew where that car was, or this, or if you were real lucky, he had to go get something from some guy or something, and man, there's Leo Maddie's number 92, and I'm sitting in the thing as a 5-year-old, and just the smell, the whole. It just sucks you in, and it's hard to break the habit.
So you were hooked right off the bat.
Yeah.
In racing.
Yeah, as a little kid. That's like I said, my dad wasn't into football and baseball and stuff. It was racing, and we're in Chicopee, Massachusetts, and he's doing his thing at Riverside Park Speedway. So. Well, it was Grand National back in the day. That was like unimaginable to us, but you knew it was there, and you paid attention. And him and his buddies, they used to actually go to Daytona. And I can only imagine them trips. And then they also did the deal where Daytona 500 was, what am I trying to say here? You had to go pay to see it on closed-circuit TV, like at the local small coliseum or something. So That's what they would do. Wow. And so I'm young, and you'd get your 2-minute snippet on Wide World of Sports. You're sitting there waiting for Wide World of Sports come on because, think 3 months after it happened, you'd see parts of the Darlington race, and in between figure skating and Chinese ping pong, and like when
barrel jumping.
You're a 6-year-old kid, it's like, son of a bee, man, I don't give two craps about ping pong, but and just the commentary and stuff was so cool from them old deals. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
The drivers, you said in your photo bio that the drivers became larger than life to you.
Well, when you're 6, 7, 8 years old, you don't realize that the guy driving your dad's race car is an insurance salesman during the week. You don't know that. You just know that on Saturday night you're going to the track, and there they are, man, with the fire, and they didn't have fire suits like they do nowadays and stuff. And I mean, a guy with like maybe his number or his name on his helmet with just a little bit of pinstriping or something. Or back in the day, they had a deal. It was the All-Star Circuit. I think O'Rourke and them guys were in on the deal. Maybe Larry Mendelson or something. So you'd have two guys from your track and two of the hot dogs. And so all these tracks up there, I mean, they had like dirt cars and stuff too, racing on. Sometimes they go run on the dirt. Most of these, I think Bright Bill, Gerald Chamberlain might have been on that stuff, and it's just a real cool deal. So they would have come once a year, and that'd be like a Tuesday or Wednesday night show, and you'd get to see all these guys you would never get to see. Freddie DeSaro in Bowler's 3 car, like at Riverside. It's the only time they were there. They didn't race Riverside. They were running like Stafford, and huge difference. I mean, only 20 miles away, but Stafford was like big blocks on injectors and stuff. They were getting it done. And I saw one of them all-star races at Riverside, and Lou Lazaro, the monk, won. And he actually won. He won 2 all-star races. I believe the only 2 all-star races they had at Riverside over the years. Monk won both of them with a dirt car on modified. Just put the asphalt tires on a little. And so the one I saw, Monk won, and Freddie finished second in Bowler's car. So, I mean, where am I going to go see that nowadays?
Yeah. Now, how did you first get involved in the sport yourself?
Well, my father got out probably when I was 12, 13 years old. So there was a little lull in there, So you keep paying attention to it, but I'm not going to the track like I was. Your mom's not driving you there anymore or nothing. So then I'm like around 15, 16, didn't have a car yet. Friend of a friend, I start bumming a ride with them, and Roland Bombardier, and God bless them, I just seen a deal popped up on some of my Facebook stuff, just a back marker from Chicopee, but good guys. Him and a guy, Bob Kelty, they had 2 old coupes that they ran out of this guy's garage in Chicopee at his house. So I start bumming a ride to the track with them, just to go watch. So at the time, so it's like 78, because Richie Evans was running there weekly, and Cook was most of the time too. I mean, sometimes they wouldn't show up because they were points chasing, but Richie had the deal where Friday night was Stafford, Saturday night Riverside, and Sunday they could usually go to Thompson. So he had, within not too far, there's 3 nights of racing for him in Riverside, probably like 3 hours from Rome to Agawam, and the way they drove down the highway, possibly less.
Possibly.
And it's I'm friendly with Billy Nazowitz, so man, it's just I get them stories and stuff, because I remember like on a Sunday morning out towing. Well, I wasn't out towing, out doing something, and seeing their hauler parked at this. It's like an old motor lodge on Riverdale Road in West Springfield, and apparently that's where they stayed. I didn't know none of this stuff, till talking with, and just seeing that thing was like, holy crap, man, that's Richie stuff. It's like it's almost I'm 16 years old, and it was still like unfathomable, you know.
Yeah.
So that was that, and so from there I get a little older, and then and I worked for my dad, you know. Yeah, and you worked. There was none of this going away racing with someone. You worked, you know. So I built my own street stock in like. What the hell? Maybe 82 or something. Me and a buddy of mine were gonna. So I built this thing, and worst thing that ever happened. Some guy that worked for my dad. He's like, "Oh man, you're gonna kill him," and you always do. It's racing's one of them armchair quarterback deals, and I don't think. I don't care how many whiz bang cameras, this, that, and especially nowadays. I think the fan base, a lot of them haven't been immersed in short track racing or not, so you don't understand what's involved till you get in there and do it. So I get this thing together, you know, me and my buddy. So typical. My first race, I towed a thing to Thompson, and it's probably for the better. I get there late, typical. So this is a Sunday show. So I have the tech guy go, Pete, I can't remember his last name. He did Thompson and Stafford. Well, you needed a little this, a little that. So I had no business going out at Thompson anyway. So that worked out good. So I show up on a Friday, the following Friday at Stafford. Like nowadays, you go test and you test. And then you test some more. And then you have 8 days of practice for a 50-lap field. This stuff was here. You rolled up. If you got 5 laps in practice, that was it. So I get there, and this is Stafford. And then the way I pulled in and was parked at the gate, some guy comes out yelling at me. And it's crazy because Ryan Priest's dad, Jeff, he was starting around the same time within a few, and he went through the same crap at Stafford, you know, like, man, well, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. You don't got, you know, blah, 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 blah. So they were in a hurry that night. For some reason, they had I don't know what the deal was. So you pull out a Stafford in turn 1. Is where you get on the track. So what they did, they had the pace car stopped and the exit of turn 2. You lined up behind it and brought you down for the green flag. So I got no laps, no nothing. I'm starting last in this car and this heat, which the setup on it was, this is a street stock, my 70 Chevelle. And my uncle at the gas station, well, he had worked on a Tuesday night. They used to run Tuesday nights, a late model and hobby division at Riverside Park. He had worked on a hot rod there, you know, So he sets the car up for me out on one of the gas pump islands at the gas station. Brings out the torch. Stock springs, and he just heats him up till the thing's sitting a certain way. And he gets in, he does a burnout with it, and tells me I'm good to go. Hey, man, I'm good to go. I got the... So we come around, get the green flag. Now, you know, I got 340 gear. I didn't know nothing. Didn't know anything about anything. On a recap tires, you know, you're running on recap street stock tires back then. So, they dropped the flag. I was saying, I'm on 340 gear in the rear. I didn't know nothing. You're running like a 510, 513 there. Well, I don't know this stuff, you know. Yeah. So I hit the gas. You ain't hardly going anywhere. And there's a big skirmish ahead of me. Like, cars everywhere. Someone got turned. Well, I drove through the middle of it. So I go like from, you know, there's probably back then 12, 14 cars in the heat. I go from like last to like third. And I'm thinking, man, this is easier than I thought, you know? I didn't realize the only reason I made it through is because I was going so slow. And then I got to the corner, and I just drove that thing in there, and I, you know, like you literally feel it like on the right front. Just I had no power, no power steering. because I thought power steering was for sissies. I mean, it's how dumb I was, not much smarter these days, but it's just the attitude you had. That, well, yeah, the guy told me, yeah, you got big balls, man, just send it in there. Well, that's what I did. And by the time I found the backstretch, I think every car in the wreck had already got restarted and passed me. So I get her down to turn 3, dump her in again, and the rear springs fell out of the car because it was laid so far over on the right front, like the rear end was coming off the ground. And in the rear view mirror, even though the thing was vibrating, I see the rear springs go over the fence.
And this is your first lap?
This is it, my first lap of racing. Oh, man, and they're gone, like the pack is gone, and you're out there, like the most, so like, I went from hero to zero, and like, now I'm like, holy crap, man, these guys are serious. It's only street stock racing, but they're serious. Yeah. The front runners and stuff, so like, holy cow. So, then my wiring starts burning up under the dash, so I come down pit road and I just reach under there grabbing at wires, no gloves, no nothing. It burnt like stripes in my hand and what from the hot wires. And the pit reporter comes up and sticks a microphone in my face. So, all right.
You don't have a recording of that, do you?
No, I mean I would pay huge money for to watch that stuff. My point being, you're so bad, most people would have quit. So, the heat race is over. So now I'm going to run. I was too embarrassed to go and find my springs. And I used to I was towing to the track with an old tow truck. Just lift the car by the rear end, put a couple street tires on the front. So, the guy next to us, he's like, well, man, just, took the record chains and chained the rear end to the frame rails. But we were real smart because we left some for, so I'd have a little travel. Yeah, so I got no springs in the rear. I go out for the consi. Same thing, dumps on the right front. And now with the rear end chained to the chassis, it's lifting the left rear off the ground. I mean, it was like the dumbest crap you ever seen in your life. And that's literally how I started, just little by little. And back then, but I knew I weren't like these kids nowadays. I would start last. I wouldn't take my handicap spot or nothing, start last, have my private battle back there with 3 other junkers. And when I knew the leaders were coming, the people in the infield, they were in danger. That's how far I got out of the way. You don't junk up the leaders' race. You know that from having been at the racetrack, all your life, basically. So it was pretty comical. Then a friend of a friend was, hey, this guy blew a motor, man. If he can drive your car for a few weeks, he'll get you going a little better and stuff. And then I never took him out of the car. And, a year later, we were winning races, having success. But, yeah, most people would have quit. It was that bad.
Now, did you actually drive a bus in New York City? Because in your photo bio, you said that you moved south because you got tired of driving a smelly bus.
Yeah.
In and out of New York City.
My last, because I was towing, my dad sold the gas station. We were out of there in end of 85. So, so I'm kind of bumming. Got the car at one guy's garage, another guy's car, garage, la, 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 la. Till finally... moved. My grandmother died, and I moved in with my grandfather, and he had this little 1-car garage. So I moved my racing operation in there, which it was so small you could barely get both axles out of the car at the same time. That's how, actually ran successfully out of there. But so then friend of a friend deal, I end up, to keep some more money towing. Unless you were really like towing for the cops and stuff up there, the towing business. And back in the day, people didn't have credit cards like they do now and this and that. Dealerships were closing. Some of them old gas stations were closed, so I weren't making much money. So get this job driving a Peter Pan bus. So if anybody that's watching this from the northeast quarter, they've seen the Peter Pan buses on the road. They're a very hugely successful bus line out of Springfield, Mass, which the guy, he's long past, Peter Picknelly Sr., back in the day, he started a deal with one kind of sort of bus running between Springfield and Boston, turned it into a small empire, and stuff like that.
What is your most interesting bus driving story?
Well, my most interesting ones, if you are intent upon keeping your office here and whatnot, we can't get into.
Okay, all right.
But
okay,
I'll try and tone this one down. Like I said, I'm making $7.12 an hour. This one night, wheel up on the curb, Greyhound, and from the very back, I was looking for my gold piece. And there's stuff used to go on in the back few seats of these late night runs.
Whatever could that be?
I'm looking for my gold piece. I'm like, all right, no biggie here. And I'm waiting. I see him, kerfuffling in the back and whatnot. So finally, I'm like, ma'am, wait about 5 minutes. Ma'am, I need to be rolling here, You move this bus, I effing kill you. And you're like $7.12 an hour. So I gassed that. I shut the door and I jumped on the gas. And I'm looking and I did mess up because I'm looking in the mirror. Here she comes up the aisle, and I'm like, oh no. And I think it's Copley Square or something up there. Boston isn't like New York where it's all gridded out at most of it's 90 degrees to each other. This intersection in Boston is comes in from 6 different ways at all different angles. And at this hour of the morning, it's all blinking lights. Ain't as much. So as I was getting up to that intersection, I'm like, what do I do now? Just comes a kook. Oh, and she actually got to me. So she's behind me with one hand on grabbing the steering wheel and stuff. I'm like, $7.12 an hour. So I'm looking, and just my luck, a cop was coming from my left. So I dragged the brake, hoping, and he did. He went across my nose, So I'm like, all right. So as he came across my nose, I took a 90-degree right to get behind him. In the meantime, so this going on, girl sitting in the seat right behind me. You crazy bitch, I'm effing pregnant. Yelling at the girl that's trying to commandeer the bus. It's like, you just, ay. So the cop, he wheeled it right to the curb. I pulled in behind him, flipped the door open. He literally grabbed me out of the seat, threw me out on the curb, goes in with the gun up in the air. I'm like, just like in the movies. And within 30 seconds, 3 more cruisers come piling in with the lights rolling and this and that. And that woman, she had come up the aisle with her gentleman. So we start getting this thing sorted out on the side of the road in Boston, early in the morning. And the cop, I said, look, man, I just told them what happened, and away I went, and up the aisle they come. So he says, brings me back, and, well, can you identify him? And I looked, and there's 5 or 6 black guys in the bus. 5 of them had done nothing but sleeping, So I'm like, man, I don't know which one it is. I'm not just going to finger some of her. So that girl's sitting behind me. It was him. All right, it was him. So now they got me back in the driver's seat. Cop takes that guy outside the door, starts questioning him. And one of the questions he asked the guy, have you ever been arrested before? The guy Well, what for? Assault and battery. So I'm like, oh, no. So cop comes back in the bus. You want to press charges, this and that. Like, I'm like, no, I didn't file no incident report or nothing because I'm not supposed to be dropping them. I'm really doing the company a favor dropping these guys off at Greyhound, but you're really not supposed to be there and you're getting off on your prescribed route and all that. So I said, no, man, just get them gone. And down the road I went to my stop with the 4 or 5 people left. And then I'm sitting there, trying to sleep in the bus a little and like, well, man, that's only 2-3 miles down the road. What if these guys, figure out and come looking for me? And so that was one of them without, getting into the graphic ones in New York City.
No, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
So from your photo bio, you said that your most embarrassing moment was a mid-1980s incident at Riverside Park where you used the trunk of the race car to store the night's stash of beer.
Oh, yeah, because, again, I'm towing this to the track with a tow truck. Lift the car up by the rear, street tires on the front. And, man, I was getting a little bigger by then, so I had like a spare transmission.
Yeah.
And cooler full of beer. And I would stick them in the trunk of the race car, because I had some trunk floor. You're supposed to have full trunk floor. I had like the bare minimum in there to get the thing through tech and whatnot. And I send the driver out for warm-ups, and I forgot to take the stuff out. So like the Riverside, you run from the back stretch into the infield during your warm-ups, watch your car for, 6, 7, 8 laps. And so I'm looking and like, man, what the heck? Because I see the track crew, both ends of the track, like pointing out into the corners. And I look, and it's my beer, my 16-ounce Knickerbockers. And they're all in the corners, like spinning, shooting off geysers. And I'm like, oh, shit, So I go, no radios or nothing, which, quite frankly, I think in them divisions, the racing was a whole lot better without the radios. And, now you got these little swingsters with the hair and the sunglasses and the junior spotter pack. We didn't have that. You're like... So he comes wheeling in. I hope, thankfully the tranny didn't fall out, And there's my cooler of beer laid over on the side, 90% empty. And they're all spinning around on the track. Like, oh, crap, get it back to the truck. And I believe at the same time, the driver's brother got caught up top trying to sneak in because he didn't know how to do it like we knew how to do it. So I got beer on the track. I got a kid trying to sneak in, and and that was God bless him and whatnot. Ben Dodge, who if I had a track today, he'd be the promoter. I didn't always get along with him and whatnot, but come over. One more time. So it's like your parents. You're on your 30th. One more time and you're done. So I was very thirsty that night.
Did you actually work for Richie Evans?
No, I did not. I did not know Richie from Adam. It was like I said, 16, 17 years. I didn't start with my own car till I was like, 19 or 20 years old. But you're 16 or 17, and like I said, you'd see that operation, cube van with I think it was the Unger Wilhelm U&W trailer or something. So the cube van with the trailer, and sometimes they'd have Big Orange and whatnot, but just that cube van with the trailer. And they had that cool, like a nice car cover. They were like they were like canvas with the nice line, and that was just like wow. So I never knew Richie. I met him like in the bar, like at the clubhouse at Thompson or something. It was like back then, you just were happy to be in the same bar as that crew, you know? So I did not know him. I ended up befriending Richie Jr., 10, 12 years ago. So that's my connection to the family there. And I should have brought it. I got a picture where I'm 16 years old hanging on the fence at Riverside when he's in Victory Lane. It's just a cool deal to have,